So one of the tools that's used all the time in farming in the homestead is the chainsaw. It's just until like probably 40 years ago or so, people were using crosscut saws all the time, and those were maintained very similarly to these, but with the invention of smaller, more portable engines, the chainsaw has become the forefront of what everybody uses cutting wood. For firewood, for felling trees, whatever you need to do, the chainsaw is what you turn to. But in order to keep it cutting, you've got to keep it maintained and the saw blade sharp. This is built exactly like those crosscut saws of old in that it has cutting teeth and rakers that rake out the chips from the teeth. So these teeth is what we'll be sharpening. The first thing you need to do in that process is determine what kind of blade you have. And these teeth, these holes here, come in different sizes, and it's all about matching your file size that we're going to use to sharpen to the chain that you have. And you can find that in your owner's manual or on the carton for the chain itself when you buy that from the big box store or wherever. Chains will last a long time provided that you keep them properly maintained and your saw lubricated, which we'll get into a little bit here. But let's just jump right into it. The first tool that I have that you'll need when you're learning to sharpen a chainsaw is these guides. And a lot of times you'll see a kit for sale at Lowe's with the guide, 2 files, a raker file, and so you have either these fit most of your chainsaw sizes available, whether it be, I don't know, there's lots of different sizes, but these are the 2 that we're going to go with. So you put your guide on following the marking on there, and you can see how it locks in nicely to the blade. You can use this side to kind of position it better, but it's not really necessary. This will give us a good guide for pushing the file across the top of the tooth. And that starts removing metal. You can hear it as it slides across. Now you want to remember how many strokes you've used on each tooth so that you're wearing evenly across your chain. So there's 3. I like to do 5 usually. And you'll notice when I'm pressing and filing, it's an upward motion. I'm not pressing down into the groove. I'm looking to get this wall and this top lip cleaned up. So you'll follow the angle that's actually marked on some of these things for you, and you're good to go. Now you'll notice that the teeth, one is facing one way, the other is facing the other. The best thing to do is to move your chain and skip every tooth. So you can move your guide, if you don't throw it on the floor, you can move your guide, skipping the tooth that's facing the opposite way and going to the next one. That way when we're finished with this side of the saw, we can just move our body to the other side of the saw and finish the sharpening filing process. Skip one, move to the next one. Lock that guide in place. And you can see those shavings coming off the top as the file moves across. Awesome. Keep it moving, skip one, go to the next one. We're sharpening the cutting teeth now. We'll come back and we'll file down the rakers after this. But you can see a clear difference between the teeth that I've filed and the teeth that have yet to come, and the dirtiness and the cleanliness and shiny of that now exposed metal. Might have been one too many there. Doesn't really matter. Move on to the next one. Now, it really didn't take any time at all for you to realize the angle that you need to be filing on, and this guide isn't really necessary. But for the purposes of this video, see, I messed up. That's not the side that I want it to be on. So continue skipping one and continue the process. This clamp makes it really easy because we're here in the shop. In the field, a good tool to have it's called a stump vise. And it's the tool next to me here as I continue to sharpen. You pound those two sharp edges into the stumps because you're gonna have logs when you're cutting wood once you fell a tree. Pound that in, and it acts as a clamp, just like this table vise does, using this here, and allows you to keep your saw in position so you can work on it nicely. There's nothing more annoying than sharpening a saw that isn't straight, and the quality of your job will suffer in the end. An important thing to remember is all files are built differently. Most of the chainsaw files that you see will cut on the push stroke. If you were to continue pressure and then rip back, I'll do it one time just to show you, like that, you see it digs into the cutting surfaces on the file. So it's important to stroke it through and then take it off as you bring it back to the beginning to start your push stroke again. And if you wonder, have I done this tooth already? Just take a look at it and you'll be able to see the rust in the bottoms of the tooth. If your chain is not moving easily, it could be your chain is too tight, or more likely, you have your chain brake on. You see how that doesn't move at all. Keep on going, and I think I'm about to come around the home stretch maybe. now that that side's complete, like I was saying earlier, we're going to switch to the other side and file the diagonal in the opposite direction. I'm going to skip that process now for the interest of time and show you the next step that's really the most crucial step. Not the most crucial, that's not true, they're all equally important. But this is what separates the amateur saw sharpener from a semi-professional. We talked about cutting teeth versus raking teeth. If your raking teeth are too high or higher than your cutting teeth, they're not going to rake out the chips, and it's going to your saw's not going to cut the way that you want it to do. So the way that we make sure our rakers are in line with our cutting teeth, just slightly shorter, is by using this tool here. This is available at Lowe's, any place, and actually that tool that you saw me use previously has this gauge built in, though I'm not as confident in the way to use it as I am this simple piece of metal. It rests, and you can feel it sort of like grab a hold of those cutting teeth. And it positions your raking tooth in the center. Then you use the file that's included in that kit that you purchased to remove just a couple scrapes and level this raker down with the gauge that you have. So you've sharpened both sides and your raking gauge, and now your saw chain is sharp and ready to be used. But still, before you go back into the field, there's a couple things that you want to check just to make sure your saw stays in tip-top condition. Every time that you fill up the bar, the gasoline mixture, you want to make sure that you top off your bar oil. Now, your bar oil is what lubricates this chain as it slides through the log, so it's important to keep that from burning and getting warm, especially when it relates to all the gear work up in the chainsaw. You don't want that friction to get it too hot. You'll burn up your saw relatively quickly. So there's a hole that drips out on the underside here where that bar oil comes out. It's going to be tough to see, but like right back up in there. Is there one? I don't know. There's one there, trust me. Actually, no, it's up here. I remember seeing it's like three slots that the bar oil just kind of comes out of. And a good saw will be using the same amount of bar oil per gasoline, essentially. So keep those stopped up at the same time, or topped up. Another thing that's important to know is that the tension of your chain. I like to keep my chain so when you pull on it, the teeth don't come out. But some people will say this is too tight. You just got to find your preference. Everybody's saw is different. Everybody's got their own method of sawing to fit their body type or whatever. New chains you'll be playing with all the time to get the tension right. As they break in, they stretch more and they become a part of the saw. The one tool that you also don't see very many people getting is one of these lubricating plungers. There's these holes in the front of your saw that lubricate the sprocket. When you see this turning, there's a sprocket on the front of here that engages the chain and loops it around. And if you don't lubricate that, just like if you don't lubricate your saw, eventually it will burn up and you'll be out of a bar in this case. So you take your lubricating plunger and fill it up, and you can see as I plunge it, the stuff comes out the top. And that way you know it's filled. Oftentimes there's two holes. This one's filled up. Give those a shot, and either way, take the excess and do what you got to do. These things are really cheap and way cheaper than a bar for your saw. So we've talked about sharpening, we've talked about taking your rakers down, we've talked about gasoline and bar oil and why that's important. I guess what should have come first is safety. I have a friend of mine who gives the anecdote. He practiced using a chainsaw for 40 years before he cut off his fingers. So just when you think you've got this tool mastered, it will come back to bite you in the hand or any place that's unprotected. Some of the safety gear that you want are chaps, which will protect your leg from getting cut. These pants have Kevlar threads in them, and when the saw hits it, it pulls out one of those strings so quickly that it'll actually jam up your saw. It'll save your leg, so it's definitely worth wearing these every time. Don't say I didn't warn you. Hearing protection, also important, and letting somebody know that you're out there chainsawing to come in and check in on you. Thanks for checking in. If you have any questions about how to use a chainsaw, maintenance, feel free to contact us. Check us out at sustainablehomestead.com, and come back soon for videos.